I still remember the first day I walked onto a construction site. Steel-toed boots barely broken in, high-vis vest clean and bright, hard hat in hand. I was 19, fresh out of high school, and buzzing with the kind of pride that comes from finally stepping into adulthood. My uncle had helped me get in. He vouched for me to the foreman. That felt like something, like a foot in the door of a real world I wasn't sure I was ready for, but damn if I wasn't eager. There's something deeply grounding about manual labor. You feel it in your muscles, in the sweat soaking through your shirt by noon, in the ache in your lower back when you collapse into bed at the end of the day. It's honest work. You see what you've done. A wall framed, a floor laid, a pipe run. You don't sit around sending emails and wondering what you actually accomplished. You build, you fix, you get things done. And back then, that meant something to me. I used to romanticize the idea of working with my hands. I'd tell people, it's good money, union pay, full pension, no student loans. There was pride in not going the college route, especially when you're pulling in more than your buddies still stuck writing term papers and living off cup noodles. I liked being useful. I liked the camaraderie of it. The unspoken language of nods and gestures on site, the teasing over lunch, the moments you'd risk your neck for a guy just because you trusted him to do the same for you. But that glow faded. Slowly, quietly. It starts small. You're hauling drywall for the 5th hour straight, and your knees twinge in a way they didn't last year. You go to the doc, and he says something vague about cartilage wear. You ignore it. You don't want to look weak. Besides, there's no time off. No paid medical leave if you're a subcontractor. You take a couple Advil and get back to it. Then winter hits. You're out there in freezing rain, fingers numb through your gloves, breath coming out in clouds while you fumble with frozen wires. The guy you're working under doesn't care that it's below freezing. The deadline doesn't care either. And you realize nobody's coming to save you. Nobody's going to cut you slack. You start noticing things. The way management talks to you like you're replaceable. The new guys coming in, younger, cheaper, willing to do twice the labor for half the pay. The way one accident, one bad fall, could wipe out your income overnight. I once saw a buddy of mine, Pete, take a nasty fall off a ladder. He shattered his wrist. He was out for months, no disability, no health coverage. He came back skinny and bitter, said he had to borrow money just to stay afloat. I remember thinking, that could be me, any day. But we don't talk about those things. You don't admit that the job is grinding you down. You joke about it. You drink. You work overtime to prove you're tough enough. There's a culture to it, of silence, of pride, of not whining. You put your head down and get through it. The pivotal moment for me came during the pandemic. When COVID hit, everything stopped. Construction sites shut down, my routine vanished. I was suddenly at home for the first time in years, and it hit me how hollow I felt. Like I had built my whole identity around work, and without it, I didn't know who I was. And then the calls started. Clients canceling projects, contractors cutting back. My boss laid off half the crew. I was lucky, they said. They were keeping me on. But on meant 2 days a week. Sometimes none. I was scraping by on unemployment, applying for side gigs I never thought I'd consider. Delivering groceries, doing odd jobs off Craigslist, hauling junk for cash. The real blow came when I saw some of the same general contractors I'd busted my ass for post-job ads, but with lower pay. Same work, less money. Like we were supposed to be grateful just to get anything. It felt like betrayal. All the loyalty, the years I gave, the weekends I worked without complaint. And the moment it was convenient, they cut costs and tossed us aside. I remember sitting alone in my apartment one evening, staring at my hands, calloused, scarred, fingers permanently crooked from years of gripping tools. And I thought, what was it all for? There's no upward mobility in this field. Not really. You can get certified in more things. You can go from apprentice to journeyman to foreman. But it's a slow, bruising climb. And even when you get there, you're still breaking your back. Maybe you're not on your knees all day, but you're the one juggling subcontractors, chasing payments, arguing with inspectors. The stress doesn't go away, it just changes form. And the pay? It sounds good on paper, but it doesn't come with stability. One bad quarter, one company bankruptcy, and you're scrambling. Benefits are patchy. Retirements? Who the hell makes it to retirement in this field without their body giving out? The aftermath of that year, those layoffs, that feeling of being utterly disposable, left me bitter. For months I was angry and numb. I'd sit in the truck after work and just stare. I didn't have words for what I felt. I'd go home, crack open a beer, and scroll job sites like it was a fantasy game. Looking at roles I wasn't qualified for, degrees I didn't have. I envied office workers, even though I used to mock them. Their climate-controlled lives, their laptops, their chairs. But I also knew I'd never belong in that world. Not because I'm not smart, but because I'd already committed. Already poured a decade of my life into a different path, and I carried it in my body now. In my hearing loss from years of hammer drills, in my worn-out shoulders, in my pride. Still, I started asking bigger questions. Why do we glorify this kind of labor if we treat the workers like trash? Why are trades so undervalued in policy and education, yet absolutely essential to society? Why are we expected to give our health, our time, our lives? For what? A pat on the back? A thank you from the guy in a suit who shows up at the ribbon cutting? There were no easy answers. Just the growing clarity that something had to change, not just in the system, but in me. So I started saying no more. No to unpaid overtime. No to jobs with no safety protocols. No to lowball bids. I pissed off a few contractors, lost a few gigs, but I also found new ones. Better ones. Ones where the foreman respected my work, where the teams had each other's backs. I started mentoring younger guys, not to drag them into the same cycle, but to teach them how to advocate for themselves, how to document injuries, how to negotiate rates, how to recognize when they were being exploited. And I made time for myself. I took weekends off, even if it meant less money. I went to therapy. Yeah, therapy. Blue-collar guys need it too. I talked about the things I used to bury. The fear of getting hurt, the shame of being stuck, the exhaustion that never fully goes away. I also started picking up side gigs teaching basic electrical at a community college, part-time, just a few nights a week. It didn't pay much, but it gave me something I hadn't felt in years: purpose. I saw younger folks, some fresh out of prison, some single parents, some just tired of retail, light up when they wired their first circuit. And I realized, maybe this was the next phase. Maybe I didn't have to break my back forever. I'm not here to tell you I've figured it all out. I still work with my hands, still crawl under houses, still curse at busted valves and stripped screws. But I do it differently now, with eyes wide open, with boundaries, with a voice. Being a blue-collar worker isn't inherently bad. There's dignity in labor, real, raw dignity. But it sucks when that labor is taken for granted. When you're expected to give everything and ask for nothing. When you're praised as essential one moment and discarded the next. I wish more people understood the cost of this work. Not just the physical toll, but the emotional one. The silence we carry. The vulnerability we mask with bravado. The dreams we shelve because there's never time, never energy, never support. But I've learned that we don't have to stay silent. We can speak. We can demand better. And we can support each other in ways the system never will. So here I am, still in the field, but not blind, not broken. Older, wiser, and finally, on my own terms.